Welcome to Math with Mr. P. Today we are doing 6th grade math, chapter 2, lesson 4. We are focusing on percents greater than 100% and percents less than 1%. Today's essential question is, when is it better to use a fraction, decimal, or a percent? Real world link. There are over 220,000 species of plants on Earth. Of those, 590 are carnivorous plants, which are plants such as Venus flytrap catch their prey as food. Write the fraction of species of carnivorous plants in simplest form. So I would do 590 over 220,000. Now, I've taught you guys this. If we chop the 0 at the end, that's the same thing as dividing both of these by 10. I would now move that fraction over, so it'd be 59 over 22,000. Now, let's check our chart. 59 is a prime number, and unfortunately for us in this case, I do not believe 22,000 is a multiple of 59. Therefore, we are going to need to divide. Now, remember, write your answer to exercise 1 as a decimal rounded to the nearest thousandth. Use division to find your answer. It's very important that we read the directions, and we're going to round it to the nearest thousandth. There's a very specific reason why. So, 59 divided by 22,000. Now, the reason why we do this is for the following reason. 59 and 22,000 cannot be simplified anymore because 59 is a prime number and 22,000 is not a multiple of 59. And remember, when we can't make our denominator out of 100, what we need to do at this point is to divide numerator by denominator. And unfortunately for us in this case, this is going to be a big one. So 22,000 cannot go into 5, cannot go into 9. Now, because it cannot go into either, we are going to need to annex decimal. And now we put another 0 down. 22,000 cannot go into this. Another 0. 22,000 still cannot go into this. Another 0. Annex another 0. Now 22,000 will go into 59,000. And I'm going to extend this bar over. It will go in, if I'm not mistaken, twice, because that'll be 44,000. And that, if I do it 3 times, will be 66,000, so it wouldn't work there. So we're going to go ahead and change this color pen. This will be 44,000. When I subtract 0 minus 0 is 0, 0 minus 0 is 0, 0 minus 0 is 0, 9 minus 4 will be 5, 5 minus 1, or 4 will be 1. This will be 15,000, and this will not work. Bring down another 0. This will now become 150,000. That should go in. Now let me guess and check. It'll be 88 if it's 4. 2 more will be what? 22,000. So let's do 22 times 7. This will be 22,000 times 7. So I'll rewrite that here. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 0 0. 7 0 0. 7 times 2 will be 14. 7 times 2 again, 14, 15. That'll be too high. So now it'll have to be 6 with guess and check. Now we'll multiply this by 6. 0, 0, 0, because 6 times 0 is all will be 0. 6 times 2 will be 12, carry the 1. 6 times 2 again, 12. 3, so this will be 6 times, which will be 1, 3, 2, 0, 0, 0. All of these will be 0. 0 minus 2 cannot do. That'll become 4. This will be 8. 4 minus 3 is 1. Boom. This cannot go in. However, it did tell us to round to the nearest thousandth. So this is tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this 6 tells us that this needs to round up. So this will be 0.003. And we can even double check our work again. And I know this seems kind of confusing, but let's do this. 59 divided by 22,000 would give me 0.00268. 0.026. Yeah, we didn't even have to get to the 8. So write your answer, round division to the nearest thousandth. This tells us that it's 0.003. That is our decimal. Write your answer to exercise 2 as a fraction. So this is the same thing as saying 3, and again, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this would be 3 thousandths. And let's move on. So this is where it's very important that we pause and rewind if we need to. So again, let me recap what we've done so far. There are over 220,000 species of plants on Earth. Okay, that is our denominator. 590 of those are carnivorous. Around. It says over, but around. Write this as a fraction, which we did. 590 over 220,000. We divided both by 10 because they both ended in 0, so that gave us 59 over 22,000. I could not simplify this down. It wanted us to write it as a decimal rounded to the nearest thousandth. The only way I could do that was dividing numerator by denominator. When I did this and rounded, I got 0.003, which is why this is written here. Now I'm going to take that 0.003, write it as a fraction, which is 3 1,000ths, because it's in the thousand spot. And this part is going to be very important. Since 0.3 is 30%, because it is 30 hundredths, and 0.03 is 3%, because it's 3 hundredths, what percent is equal to 0.003? Now, this is very important. When we wrote this as a percentage, it wanted us to jump the decimal 1 2 times, then add a percentage. So 0.3 became 30%. 0.03 would also jump 1 2 times, then add a percent. These zeros would go away, and that would be 3%. So if I have 0.003, and we'll use the side part over here to do this and illustrate this. 0.003. If I jump twice to the right, 1, 2, then add the percentage symbol, these zeros here will fade away. What I actually end up with is 0.3%. So basically, explaining what we just did with everything, out of all the plants in the world, less than 1% of those plants are carnivorous. It's actually around 0.3% of the plants on Earth are carnivorous. This is why we're talking about percentages less than 1%. Percents greater than 100% or less than 1% can also be written as decimals or as fractions. Write 0.2% as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. 0.2% as a decimal would jump to the left twice. 1, 2. This way it would be 0.002. It's very important that we pay attention to this. So again, let me go ahead and do this and highlight this. In order to turn a percentage from a decimal, from a percentage to a decimal, let me rewrite this, from a percentage to a decimal, and I'll put 0.0 as our decimal. In order to change a percentage to a decimal, what needs to happen is the decimal needs to jump twice, 2 times to the left. So again, and I'm not writing this out as words, I want you guys to write this out in your notes. So to change a percentage to a decimal, we need to jump the decimal point 2 times to the left. So in this example, 0.2%, the decimal needs to jump twice to the left, which would make this 0.002 as a decimal. Now, let me take a different approach. Let's do something a little easier, something that we've been working with. Let's say 30%. I want to change 30% to a decimal. There is no decimal here. We automatically put it at the end. Therefore, 30% will jump twice, which will give me 0.30, 0.30, but of course the 0 at the end just fades away, so it'd be 0.3 as a decimal. We've talked about this. If I add the 0 here, that's 30/100ths, 30%. So again, this is a new approach. We haven't been using this so much in class, but now is the time to do this because this is going to be the easiest way to remember. So again, to turn a percentage into a decimal, you want to move the decimal point twice to the left. So again, it has to be a percentage to a decimal. A percentage to a decimal. Now, on the flip side, if you have a decimal and you want to turn the decimal into a percentage, you are going to move the decimal point 2 times to the right. So if my decimal were 0.16, as a percentage, I would want to go 1, 2 to the right. This would make this 16%. Now remember, it has to be as a decimal to a percent. So your number has to be a decimal. Let's do another one. Let's say I have 0.005. Decimal needs to move twice to the right. 1, 2. This will make this 0.5%. And I will add the percentage at the end. So again, in order to change a decimal to a percentage, we are moving the decimal 2 times to the right. Now, those two things are very important to have in your notes and to remember because we're going to be utilizing this a lot. So, example number 2, write 170% as a mixed number in simplest form and as a decimal. Now, remember, from decimal, well, hang on, give me 1 second, it's percent. So from percent to decimal, we move the decimal 2 times to the left. From percent to decimal, 2 times to the left. So if my percentage is 170%, the decimals at the end, 2 times to the left, would make this 1.7. The 0 at the end can fade away. So this is 1.7%. Now this is how it would be as a decimal. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't need to add the percent. I forgot because it's a decimal. So this would be 1.7 as a decimal. Now it asks me to do this as a mixed number. A mixed number would be whole number and decimal. That's 7 in the 10th spot. And 7/10 is already simplified. Therefore, these would be our 2 answers. 1.7 and 1 and 7/10, just like it says here in the book. Hopefully I haven't lost you yet. I know that this is a little difficult. We just came from a lesson that was real fast and real easy to, oh my goodness, we have to think this through now. But we'll get there. For these exercises, we're turning all of these percentages into decimals. Now remember, a percent can also be a decimal, but because it has a percentage at the end, we are still moving the decimal 2 times to the left. So if we have 0.25%, the decimal's jumping twice to the left. So 0.25%, 1, 2. I had the annex 0. This would be 0.0025, and we drop the percentage off because it's turning into a decimal, right? Each percent is a decimal and as a mixed number or fraction in simplest form. As a mixed number or fraction in simplest form. So our first part is done. We did a decimal, 0.0025. I'm going to go to the whiteboard for this one. 0.0025 as a fraction will be 25 over the place value at the end. Remember, tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10 thousandths. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is definitely going to be able to be simplified. Now I know 25 can go into 100, I know 100 can go into 1,000 and so on, so I'm going to divide both of these by 25. 1 will be our numerator. Now 10,000 divided by 25, it's going to be tricky. So 10,000 divided by 25. 25 will go in, not go into 1 or 10, but it'll go into 100 4 times. That'll be 100. I will get absolute 0. Guess what? These two other zeros now have to come up. So it will be 1 over 400, or 1/400. And I will double check my work to make sure that this is right. So remember, you have to show your work on a homework test, whatever. You can't just say 10,000 divided by 25 is 400. You need to show how you solve that. So 10,000 divided by 25 is 400, just like we worked out here. Therefore, my fraction for this one is 1 over 400 because the directions tell me that they want it as a decimal and as a mixed number or fraction in simplest form. So my answer for A is 0.0025 and 1 over 400. We're going to continue to do these ones on the whiteboard. 300%. Now remember, to convert a percent to a decimal, the decimal jumps 2 times to the left. The decimal is at the end here, 1, 2. I will have 3.0, or just as a decimal, just 3. As a decimal, it's just 3 because it's 3.00. There is really no decimal, so it is a whole number. Now, as a fraction, if we really want to get technical, it'll be 3 over 1. Because any whole number over 1 is just that number. So for 300%, it'll be 3. And 3 over 1. For 530%, 530%, again, the decimal at the end jumps twice. I will have 5.30, but the 0 will fade away. So as a decimal, it'll be 5.3. As a mixed number, it will be 5 and 3, and the 3 is in the 10th spot. And 3/10 will not simplify because 3 is a prime number, and 10 is not a multiple of 3. They have nothing in common. So my answer for this part is 5.3 and 5 3/10. So hopefully this is starting to make a little more sense. If not, we're definitely going to be doing this for 2 days for our work day. Jimmy's savings increased by 250%. Write 250% as a mixed number in simplest form and as a decimal. So 250%. They do not want us, well, okay, so you could do it either way. The way that the book is showing us 250%, yeah, it would be 250 over 100. because it is a fraction. I would have done it the other way, the way that we've been doing it, turning 250% into a decimal first, which would be 2.5, and then this would be 2 and 5 tenths, because the 5 is in the 10th spot, and 5 tenths both will have 5 as a factor, which would be 2 and 1 half, because 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So that's our answer there, and we still have 2.5 there. So let me break this down a little slower and kind of show you step by step what I would do. So 250% as a mixed number and as a decimal. And they want the mixed number in simplest form. 250%. So I'm going to put over here, they want it as a decimal and they want it as a mixed number. As a decimal, I am going to always have the decimal at the end. And again, percentages to decimals, decimal jumps 1, 2 times to the left. That would give me 2.50, but the 0 at the end of a decimal can fade away. My answer is 2.5. Hopefully everybody understands what happened there. Again, the decimal to a percentage to a decimal, the decimal jumps twice to the left, and we get rid of the percentage symbol. So 250% becomes 2.5. Now, as a mixed number, I would like to take this and turn it into a mixed number because it's easier. The book wanted us to do it this way. The book wants us to put 250 over 100, and then you would end up having to do this. Divide it by 10 by chopping the zeros off, 25 over 10, and then you would divide 25 by 10. 10 goes into 25 twice. That will be 20. When I subtract, I'll have 5. And then you would have 2 and 5 tenths, which is exactly what we would have gotten if we had just stuck to the decimal. 2 and then 5 in the 10th spot. So either way would have worked, but we're not done because this is not in simplest form. 5 and 10 both have a common factor of 5 because 5 goes into 5 and 5 goes into 10. When I divide 5 by 5, I will get 1. When I divide 10 by 5, I will get 2. So my answer for a mixed number is 2 and 1 half. And that is how I convert 250% into a decimal and into a mixed number. Let's do this got it. The stock price for a corporation increased by 0.11% or 0.11%. Write 0.11% as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. So, you definitely want to turn this into a fraction or into a decimal first, because putting 0.11% over a fraction, I mean, you wouldn't put it over 100. You just wouldn't. So let's go ahead and turn this into a decimal first. Remember, 0.11%. The decimal in a percentage to a decimal has to go to the left. To turn a percentage to a decimal, the decimal has to jump to the left twice. So it'll be 1, 2 jumps. So my new decimal will become 0.0011. That's my answer as a decimal. Decimal is checked off. Now as a fraction, I can easily put 11 over the last place value. So as a fraction, it will be 11 over, and again, we're going to highlight and count. This is the 10th spot, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths. So this will be 11 over 10 thousandths. And we're going to check our chart. 11 is a prime number, but I'm not sure if 10,000 is a multiple of 11. So utilize what you have. You have a calculator. You can check and see if 10,000 divided by 11 equals a whole number. It does not. Therefore, our simplest form is 11 over 10,000 as a fraction. And that will be my answer for that part of the question, for our fraction part. Now, we're going to continue because we've done a lot of practice in turning decimals into, or percentages into decimals, but now we're going to have to talk about turning decimals into percentages, or even fractions or mixed numbers into this. So, to write a decimal as a percent, multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. To write a mixed number as a percent, first write the mixed number as an improper fraction. That seems like a lot, so let's walk through this. Write 1 and 1/4 as a percent. Now, in order to write 1 and 1/4 as a percent, I will need to turn this into an improper fraction. In order to turn 1 and 1/4 into an improper fraction, I need to do the following. Now, when you have a mixed number, 1 and 1/4, to become an improper fraction, what you need to do is this, and this definitely needs to be in your notes, ladies and gentlemen. Whole number times the denominator, whatever that equals, add it to the numerator, and your new number will be over your original denominator. So, whole number, again, I'm going to highlight whole number, multiply that by your denominator. So 1 times 4 in this case would be 4. Add it to your numerator, 4 plus 1 would be 5, and put that number over the original denominator, in this case it would be 4, so I have 5 over 4. The reason why I do this is because if I were to divide 5 by 4, 4 would go into 5 one time, that would be 4, subtract 1, it'd be 1 and 1/4, which is what we started with. So, 1 and 1/4 as an improper fraction is 5 over 4. For those of us that don't know what an improper fraction is, this needs to be in your notes as well. An improper fraction is when your numerator is a bigger number than your denominator. That is an improper fraction. All proper fractions would be something like this. When you have a number in your numerator that is smaller than your denominator, those are proper fractions. Improper fractions are always when you have a bigger number in the numerator spot. So they've asked us to turn 1 and 1/4 into an improper fraction, which is 5 over 4. The book now wants us to do the following, which is very confusing, in my opinion. They want the 5 over 4 to have a denominator of 100. In order to convert 4 to 100, you need to multiply by 25, which means you're going to multiply the 5 by 25 as well, which would give you 125 over 100, which is the same thing as 125%. That was a lot. Or, here's a way you could do this. You could have started with the 1 and done a period. 1/4. Now, you could have done the same thing and turned the 1/4 into 25 over 100, which would have given you 25 hundredths, 1.25. Or you could have done this. You could have done 1 divided by 4. 4 cannot go into 1 decimal. 4 goes into 10 twice. That'll be 8. When I subtract, I get 2. 4 cannot go into 2. Bring down another 0. 4 goes into 25 times. And you still would have gotten 0.25. 1.25 as a decimal. Turn that into a percentage. The decimal to percent, the decimal moves twice to the right. That would have given you 125%. So let's recap that a little slower. You can do what the book wants us to do, which is turn your mixed number into an improper fraction, then turn that improper fraction into a fraction with the denominator being 100, which won't always work. Just letting you know. If this is how your brain works, go for it. Again, math is a roadmap. We're not all taking the exact same directions. So if this works for you, go for it. You would still need to convert that 4 to be 100. you would need to know 4 times what would equal 100, which is 25. Your new fraction is 125 over 100. Same thing as saying 125%. Or we could have done this. 1 point and then 1/4. If you know your shortcuts, you know 1/4 is a quarter. That would have been 25. You could have also done the 1 divided by 4 like we did earlier, which would have given you 0.25. 1.25, because this is 1 and 0.25, which is 1.25. In order for a decimal to become a percent, the decimal jumps twice to the right. Again, from a decimal to a percentage, decimal goes twice to the right. This would be 125, and we add the percent at the end, and there you go. Either way would have worked fine. Now, there's not always going to be a fraction like this where you're going to be able to turn it into 100. Just giving you a heads up, so there is a benefit for knowing both ways. We're going to do up to I, and we're going to call this one a video because there's been a lot of information. Let's go with the got it first. 2 9/10. This is going to be pretty easy. Write each mixed number as a percent. Now, they don't want us to write it as a decimal at all. They just want us to write it as a percent. 2 9/10. Now, we can do what the book wanted us to do and turn this into an improper fraction and then solve it from there, which is completely fine. You would still do whole number times denominator, add it to the numerator. So our new mixed number is still going to be over 10. 2 times 10 would be 20, plus 9 would be 29 over 10. In order to make this over 100, we just need to multiply both of these by 10, aka annex is 0, 290%. That would have been fine. Another way you could have done this was do 2 9/10, 2.9. You know that it needs to be a decimal to a percentage, so it needs to jump once, twice. That gives you 290%. Either way would have been fine. So we solved that one. 3 2/5. Now, this one's not going to be as easy to turn into a decimal. There are some shortcuts. So let's do the opposite of what we did last time. So we can still do 3.2/5. If I multiply both of these by 2, would be 4/10. So it'd be 3.4. Again, decimal to a percentage. You jump twice. This would be 340%. So there was that way. Let's do the improper fraction way and turn it into a decimal or a percentage. 3 whole number times denominator plus numerator over the original denominator. Again, whole number times denominator, add that to the numerator and put that over the original denominator, which is 5 in this case. 3 times 5 is 15, plus the 2 will be 17. 17 over 5. Now, you can do two things. If you know to turn the 5 into 100, you'd multiply it by 20. So it'd give you 100. And 17 times 20. 17 times 2 would be 34. Annex is 0. And it'd be 340. 340 over 100 would still give you 340%. So either way would have worked. All of these ways would have worked. Example 5. Write 1.68 as a percent. Now we've talked about this. When you have a decimal to a percentage, the decimal jumps twice to the right. This would be 168%. So again, decimal to percentage to the right, twice to the right. Think of it as alphabetical order if this helps. This may help. Well, let's replace a percentage with a p. If you're going in alphabetical order from decimal to percent, twice to the right. We read from left to right. If it's going from a percent to a decimal, that's reverse alphabetical order. We don't read or backwards would be reading from left to right instead of, or from right to left instead of left to right. So it would go 2 times to the left. This shorthand could be something you can put in your notes and remember. So again, from decimal to percent, 2 times to the right. From percent to decimal, 2 times to the left. Write 0.0075 as a percent. That decimal would be moving twice to the right. 1, 2. The pen's not letting me write. 1, 2, something like that. This would become 0.75%. Just like it says there. So let's do these examples, and we call it a stream for today. Let me go ahead and erase that so we can see. Starting with 2.5. From a decimal to a percent, we go twice to the right. There's something about this pen that's not letting me write. 1, 2. Okay, we're just going to take this to the whiteboard now. 2.5. Let's just take this all to the digital whiteboard. I've got 2.5, 0.004, and 0.0016. 0.0016. Remember, these are all decimals. We are turning them each into a percent. And we are going to do this by moving our decimal point twice to the right. This would move 1, 2, which would make this 250%. And that would be my answer. For this one, 1, 2, which would give me 0.4%. Because remember, the decimals right here, these other zeros can fade away. So it'd be 0.4%. And with this one, 1, 2, same idea with the zeros fading away, 0.16%. And that's it. Again, the biggest takeaway is going to be how to convert decimals to percentages and percentages to decimals. It's very important that you have something like this in your notes. It is very important that we also know how to convert a mixed number into an improper fraction. Again, whole number times denominator, add it to the numerator, and throw it over the original denominator. And that will make it an improper fraction. And it is very important for you to understand the differences between a proper fraction and an improper fraction. I know that there was a lot of information. I know that this video ran close to 40 minutes, which is now our new record for the longest lesson, but there was a lot today. I won't blame you if you want to rewatch this. If this will take you a few days, take the notes. Don't attempt the questions. Come to class with any concerns you may have, anything you didn't understand. If we need to review, we have 2 days to do this work. We will survive this. I know it went from one extreme to the other of this is super easy to wow, this is a lot of information. This is a lesson that we need to master before we move on. So if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to ask. Put it in the comments, message me on Teams. Bring it to class. This has been Chapter 2, Lesson 4. As always, I am Mr. P, and I will catch you on the next one.